Hello creeps, Andy here, and today I wanted to rank for you every Riley Sager book ever written. There's like this many of them, 7-ish books. They're not in the order, don't worry. I wouldn't give that away just yet. I picked up his first book maybe a year or so ago, and I really enjoyed it. And so ever since then, I've been slowly picking up his books. I really enjoy his writing. I really enjoy his characters. I feel a lot of connection to his female characters, and I think that he puts a lot of work into his stories. So today I'm going to rank them for you from my least favorite to my most favorite, but just know, even if the book is lower on the list, it doesn't mean that I hated the read by any means. I still think that he is a good writer, and I think something I really enjoy about his work is that he feels to the thriller genre like Darcy Coates feels for me to the horror genre. Like, he takes a trope or something that happens all the time in thriller books and he breathes new life into it, and he does make it his own. A lot of times you think you know what's going to happen, and then he turns it on his head and makes it something completely new. Also, I think it would be cool if you guys left a comment ranking your favorite Riley Sager books, even if you haven't read all of them. Just let me know what your favorite or least favorites are, or how you feel about them, because it's really interesting to see how differently people are affected by a book. And also, I think some of these will surprise you. Okay, so let me put them in order really quick, and then let's just get into it. Really quick, just popping in to remind you that tonight at 6 p.m. PST, we will have our book club. It's going to be a live stream, so just go to my channel and click the live, and I will be there to discuss The Eyes Are the Best Part by Monica Kim. I'm very excited to hear you guys' take on it. I will see you there. Okay, so my least favorite Riley Sager book is his newest book, Middle of the Night. This is really the only Riley Sager book where, I mean, I still enjoyed the ride, but definitely not as much as these. Yeah, this one just didn't do it for me. And I don't know if it's because the main character is male. It's the only one where the main character is male. And like I said, I connect in a lot of ways to his female characters. He has a way of writing girls that don't quite feel like they fit in, or aren't quite cool enough, or are going through some tragedy in some way, and I just really have connected with those characters. And so I don't know if that's why I didn't particularly connect with this one or not, but this is about a man named Ethan. He lives in this house where his parents, he lives in the house that he grew up in. So his parents moved out, but he ended up moving in. When he was younger, him and his best friend Billy, which was his next door neighbor at the time, were sleeping in his backyard in a tent, and Billy was abducted. So he's kind of carried the guilt of what happened to Billy all these years. Nobody knows what happened, where he went, who abducted him. No one knows anything. And so now, being back in the house, it's kind of bringing up these memories. He has really bad insomnia, some nightmares, but also being back in that neighborhood, he's able to connect with a lot of the kids that he grew up with. And so the timeline goes like it does in a lot of Riley Sager books, from the past and to the present. So we get snippets of his relationship with Billy, what happened that night, the other people involved, and then we also come back to present day, where he's still trying to unravel the mystery of what happened to Billy. This one, it just really seemed like not much was going on. Most of the story just takes place in his house or in his backyard. Like, there really isn't much else to the book. So it just wasn't as entertaining as his other stories. I didn't really connect with the main character. And yeah, this one just wasn't my favorite. However, I've heard a lot of people did really enjoy it. So don't take this as me trying to discourage you from reading any of his books. I really do love Riley Sager, and I think that he's an amazing writer. Everyone's going to connect with the book differently. Everyone's going to connect with main characters differently. But that one, unfortunately, was in last place for me. This is the one that I think is going to make people mad, because to my understanding, this is the highest rated Riley Sager book, and I don't know why. I don't know why. And don't get me wrong, it's a really, really cool concept. It's about this woman named Kit. She's a home care worker, so almost kind of like a nurse, takes care of people who are sick. She's had some issues in the past, so she's having trouble booking clients, and her agency ends up booking her with Lenora Hope. I think that's her name, right? Yes. Lenora is an old woman who, in her childhood, the whole town thinks murdered her family, but the cops never arrested her or anything for it. But she lives on top of this cliff in this house that's quite dilapidated. It's kind of falling apart. She's older now. She can't quite care for herself. She can't speak. But when Kit comes to work for her, Lenora types out, "I want to tell you everything." And so, goosebumps, right? So cool. It's the best concept ever. There are some things that I didn't like about this one, however. And one of them is there are 3,000 twists and turns in this book. This is what it felt like reading this. It was like, ugh, oh, another one. Oh, geez. Oh, here we go again. It felt like reading, what's that movie from the 90s? Wild Things. Remember how many twists and turns were in that movie? But this one, some of them, I'm just like, that's so, how do people just accept this? I don't know. I couldn't get into it because some of the stuff I just felt was too unbelievable. I also had an issue connecting with the main character because this is one of those stories where everyone's got their wall up, everyone's hiding a secret, and so you can't really get close to anyone. And that's why I love Riley Sager books, is because I really do connect with his female characters. I really love the way that he writes them. And because especially our main character Kit is still keeping up those walls, we don't ever get close to her. And so that was a bummer for me, just because I love the way that he writes his female characters. I couldn't connect with her. And so that left a lot to be desired in this book for me. Again though, fantastically written, a really cool story. And I also liked the way that the house is dilapidated. It's almost like a fun house. The doorways are slanted, everything's kind of at a slant. And so it makes it difficult to get through the house and walk through. And for me, at least, I obviously don't know the reason why he did this, but for me, I feel like that mirrors kind of being thrown off balance as a reader. And so if that was his intention, I think that's brilliant. And he puts so much work into his writing. For example, he says that our first character, our main character in this one, his name is Ethan Marsh. He names him that because it feels like he's walking through a boggy marsh, like he's just weighed down from his past. And so I think he's a great writer. I think he puts a lot of care into his work. This is just my opinions on it, you know? What do I know? But that's how I felt about this one. Next up was Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This is another one. These two, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about them, because at the end of the day, I did enjoy this ride. And I enjoy all his stories. At the end, I go, okay, that was satisfying, even if there are some things that I didn't absolutely love. But for this one particularly, this main character's name is Charlie. It takes place in the 90s, and there's a killer on campus who has murdered her best friend and roommate. And she does blame herself a lot for what happened. She feels like she should have been there for her friend. And because of that and other tragedies in her past, she has difficulty differentiating between reality and kind of these hallucinations that she envisions where she's in a movie. She's kind of a movie buff. She ends up trying to get away from campus. She wants to go home and drop out of college so that she can get away from this and just try to get her life back on track. So again, it's in the 90s, so it's through a ride share that she finds a man who's going to drive her all the way across a few states home. But once she gets in the car with him and once they start the journey, she kind of gets an inkling that he had something to do with the killings on campus. So is he the killer? Is it all in her head? We don't know. Again, I really like this one because it's one of those you think you know where it's going, and I really didn't. But I will say that the killer, I think, is pretty obvious. Pretty quickly, I knew who the killer was, but that didn't even bother me. That wasn't even my issue with the book. I think there were just a few things. For one, it didn't feel as nostalgic as I hoped it would, taking place in the 90s. Now, I definitely wasn't a teen in the 90s, so that could be why I didn't connect with it as much. Another thing, the ending I didn't quite love, but this one was so weird because I enjoyed the ride and I liked the originality of it, and I thought a lot of things were cool in it, but it just wasn't my favorite book. It just didn't feel to me as well written as some of his other books. And again, it's just going to be personal preference. The next one, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This one, you get to the end and you're like, what the fuck did I just read? So this one is about a woman named Casey. I think she's an actress. She has some sort of fame, and her family does. I'm pretty sure she's an actress. But anyways, she's struggling at the moment because she's dealing with the loss of her husband. She's drinking heavily and kind of embarrassing herself in the public eye. So her mom ends up sending her to their family lake house to work through her own issues and not embarrass herself or really the family name. So while Casey's at this house on the lake, she finds this couple across the lake. She becomes friends with them, but then she also kind of starts stalking them and watching them through the binoculars. And when the wife disappears, she is certain the husband has something to do with it. So she very much so inserts herself in their life, trying to figure out what happened to the woman. Now, it sounds like a cool concept. You think you know where it's going, and you don't. And it felt to me, without giving too much away, it really did feel like two novels just shoved together. And so it really blindsided me. And even in the acknowledgments in this one, he does say that he thanks this person who cheered him on from the moment I first told them the bonkers plot of this book. So I think even he knows that it's going to be one of those you either love it or hate it. And it just wasn't a story for me. But it was still so enjoyable. And that's what made it so difficult, because I'm like, well, but I still liked it. Like, I connected with the main character who was grieving and having her issues and, you know, having to put her life aside to deal with her struggles, and how she like so deeply involves herself in other people's issues to not have to deal with her own. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I closed the book and I was like, I have such mixed feelings on this one, because what the fuck was that? But also, why did I like it so much? Even though it's a story that I wouldn't typically like, I feel like. So yeah, that's that one. I don't know. Very curious what you guys think about some of these. The next one is Final Girls. This one I really enjoyed, and I read it in a time where I just wanted a fun thriller, and that's exactly what it was to me. It's about a woman named Quincy. She is a baker and she's keeping a low profile, even though in her past her entire friend group was murdered while they stayed in this cabin. So the newspapers have dubbed her a final girl. This has happened previously to two other people. We have Sam, who survived a murder at a hotel, and then we also have a woman named Lisa who survived a sorority house slaughter. So Lisa has kind of taken that idea of a final girl and turned it into her life. Like, she speaks publicly about it. I think she wrote a book about it, and so she's kind of the face of the final girl. Sam and Quincy definitely more low profile, don't really feed into the idea of just trying to get on with their lives. However, when Lisa ends up dead, Sam and Quincy form an unlikely friendship to try to figure out what happened to her, who the killer is, and if they're in danger, if it had anything to do with them being final girls. So again, really cool concept for a story. I will say, again, not exactly what I expected. I did kind of expect to get a lot of information about them being a final girl. And because Quincy is our main character, we do get information on the slaughter in the cabin, and it's revealed slowly because Quincy doesn't remember everything that happened that night. So we get glimpses of it until at the end, you know, we finally figure out everything. But unfortunately, we really get slim to none on the sorority house murder or the hotel murder, and both of those seemed so fun to dive into. And so I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more information on that. And the story really is more focused on the friendship between Quincy and Sam, and kind of Quincy's arc as a character in itself. I also liked this one because you have different views of people that are involved in crimes. So you have the victims, you have the police, and then her fiance is like a district attorney or something like that. So you kind of have these different people that are all involved in crimes, not necessarily the crimes that Quincy was in, but you know what I mean? You do get different, not sides of the story, because it's not that they go into detail about it, but I just thought that was kind of interesting to include characters from all different sides. So I liked that. I liked the story. It did what it was supposed to do. It wasn't super predictable. I didn't figure out everything automatically. I think at the end you start to kind of unpack things and figure things out. I mean, but that's what a good thriller book does, right? Like, it slowly reveals it to you so that you can figure out what's going on, kind of along with the characters. So yeah, I liked it. Definitely something surprised me in this one, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun ride. Next up, Home After Dark. This one was just fun. This one was just a blast. This is about, what's our main character's name? Maggie. Her father has just passed away, and she's learned some interesting information upon his death. When she was younger, her and her mom and her dad lived in this mansion, supposedly haunted. They ended up fleeing in the middle of the night and gained a lot of money and infamy from being the family who lived there, because her father ended up writing a book about how the place was haunted. Maggie questions these things that happened and always has. She was quite young at the time, but she doesn't remember things the way that they're told in the book. So, to her surprise, after her father passes away, she learns that this house has always been in her father's name and it was handed down to her. So now it's hers. So she doesn't quite know what she wants to do. She doesn't know if she wants to go and renovate it and sell it, or she just wants to find out what happened, but she knows she wants to go there and question her past. So that's exactly what she does. She ends up going there, looking into the history of the house, the people that lived there prior, and really just tries to unravel the story of her father's either truth or lies. But this one is just fun. It's fun, creepy, kind of ghostish, you know, haunted house type story. But again, it's another Riley Sager. It's not exactly what it seems. Also, again, the themes of grief and losing her father and stuff, I liked those as well. This is the first Riley Sager book I ever read, Lock Every Door. So I think for that reason, it's high up on the list because it holds a special place, because this is what introduced me to Riley Sager in the first place. This is about a woman named Jules. She ends up getting a job house sitting in this super famous, beautiful, fancy apartment building called the Bartholomew in Manhattan. So she feels like her luck's kind of turning around, and both her parents have since passed away. She feels like she's kind of on her own. So she's really excited to stay here. I think actually, didn't her sister die too? Don't quote me on that. But anyways, she ends up staying in this building, but she slowly comes to realize that things might not be as great as they seem, because there are a few house sitters that also live in the Bartholomew, and one of the girls goes missing. So she ends up, again, kind of inserting herself into the girl's life, into the history of the Bartholomew, into the people that live there, the neighbors. And when she starts asking questions, the residents don't quite like that. So she ends up, yeah, finding more than she bargained for. This one, again, was so fun. Not at all predictable the way that a lot of thrillers are. I had a blast with it. I really connected with the character, themes of like being alone and lonely and not having a lot of people to trust in. So yeah, I love this one. I thought it was a blast. Really enjoyed that. But my favorite Riley Sager of all time is The Last Time I Lied. This one is my absolute favorite. And I think the reason why I loved it so much is because I went in just kind of thinking it was a regular story, not really having high hopes for it, and it surprised me. I think if you go in with low expectations, I think this one really will surprise you. This is about a woman named Emma. We again have the past and present timelines. Emma is now a famous painter or semi-famous painter, but when she was younger, she stayed in a cabin at a camp, and her 3 roommates, she remembers them getting up in the middle of the night and leaving. She was younger than them, so they wouldn't let her come with them. So she watched them go, but they never returned. So she's carried that with her whole life. It's been like, I don't know, 20 some odd years. So now as a painter, she paints these landscapes of trees and forests, and then she puts the silhouettes of the girls hidden somewhere in the forests. She's working through her issues, coming to terms with things, and finds that the camp is being opened by the same people that opened it when she was young, because after those 3 went missing, they just closed down the camp. They didn't know if it was safe or what was going on, got bad publicity. So when the camp's reopened, they invite Emma to come stay back there. I think it's kind of their way of proving that it's safe and, like, you know, like I said, better publicity for like turning a bad thing into a positive. But Emma ends up taking them up on this offer because she still has questions about what happened, and she wants to see if she can find out anything. She ends up staying in the same cabin she stayed in when she was younger, and actually finds some evidence or clues left behind from the girls that have gone missing, or seem to be at least. So she really starts to open up the doors to the past and see if she could find what happened to those girls that went missing all those years ago once and for all. This one is just fun. It was a blast. Again, I really connected with this character, that the young girl trying to fit in with the cool girls and just trying to be like them and just not, you know, being like the young one that tags along. And so yeah, I really like this. I like the main character. I like, again, where you think you know what's going on, but then you don't. So that's my ranking of Riley Sager books. Let me know what you agree with. Let me know what you disagree with. Let me know which ones are your favorite and which ones weren't your favorite. I really do like Riley Sager books. I think that he's a great writer, and I have, at the very least, enjoyed all of these reads in some capacity. And I can't always say that about thriller books because I am quite a hard critic for thrillers. So yeah, I enjoy his writing and I will continue to read his work. So yeah, let me know all your thoughts. I will see you Sunday for the live stream, or I will see you soon with another horror video. Bye guys!
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear. that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.